Well guys, I don't know why, but I have just been putting off this video just because I know it's going to be a video with a lot of information, probably a lot of talking, and just a lot to go over. So we kind of have everything wiring wise kind of routed the way that I think it's going to be going. And I've kind of just been trying to figure out how I'm going to tie the Terminator harness in with the chassis harness and all that. So it's been just a lot of thinking. So I've just been putting this off, trying to do little things here and there. That way, when it does come to make this video, it's just hooking things up and kind of explaining what and why we're doing things. So I guess let's just start here. Actually, let me get a light. So here's where I mounted this fuse block. This is a painless harness, kind of a universal, yet still catered towards the C10 trucks, which is nice because everything's kind of routed for you. And if you were just doing a stock swap, rewire, it'd probably go really quick for you. But for me, I'm kind of routing things my own way. And as you can see, I do have some things done. As in here's the light switch. I'm doing a push start button, ignition switch. So that's all wired. Window wipers are wired. And then everything's just routed in the general location. Like these are all gauge cluster, instrument panel stuff. So I have to wait till that's here. Here we have radio and things like that. So those are just gonna have to wait until I do have the things ready to wire up. Other than that, so then out here is where I'm routing. This will be all the lights to the front end and the back end. They are just going down the side here because I don't know exactly how I'm gonna route them. They'll go down the firewall and underneath the cab. Here we have, this is actually all the radiator fans, both of them, lights, etc. But I think a good place to actually start is kind of starting from the battery and then working our way into everything. So here's where I have my battery mounted. I did make this. You can go back and watch my past videos. I just wanted it back here because it frees up area for the front. This is where the stock battery goes, but as you can see, I will have a turbo here and things like that. So I just wanted to clean up the engine bay in that aspect. How I'm going to be routing the power wire, because this is the main fuse for the entire chassis of the truck. So I'm going to be routing power wire from the battery, and it'll come up through there somehow, and then it'll connect there. But that's not important right now. We're going to be going pretty much from this relay panel forward because I'll be hooking all this up later. So here we have the main power wire that is going to the alternator. It is routed underneath the tunnel, comes up right here, behind the intake manifold, under the fuel rail, and then connects to the alternator right here. This is obviously what is going to charge everything, and then these are the wires that will connect to the painless harness. So they'll be connected like so. So that is your main wire. And then there are a few wires that we need to connect that will go. This is the main power wire that goes to the fuse block. So that is routed to here. This will connect to here. And then I also have a main wire that I ran for the electric fans. This will go directly to here. Then these other wires will go to the relays. This is a relay for a fuel pump, and I don't know yet. I was thinking maybe my sound system, so like my subs and my amp, but I'm not sure yet. For sure, one of them is the electric fuel pump, and that will be controlled by the Terminator. Now where this is going to get confusing is the Terminator is going to be running some things that normally you'd be running off of the painless harness. So such as things like this, which is your oil pressure, your oil pressure, coolant temps, and things like that, which this is the painless harness. But the Terminator is already going to have things, is already going to be using those sensors. So that is going to be actually going through the main harness. And the only reason I'm going to be trying to hook these up is to go to my instrument panel. So I don't know how I'm going to do that yet because the Terminator harness is already plugged into the stock sensors. So I'll have to figure that out. So I think the easiest way to record this video is kind of just going through each system or each item being wired and kind of explaining how I do it, because this could get really chaotic if I just start bouncing around with things. So I think I'm going to start here just at the Terminator and kind of just explain things and go along and get it wired. So here with the Terminator harness, nice thing about it is everything is pretty much plug and play, but there are some wires that you will have to get wired in. So first thing is you're going to have two wires in the harness. You have a red with white stripe and a solid black. This is going to be your accessory. This is going to need to go to a switched power source. So for me, I ran this pink wire from this fuse block, which I know that when I push the button, that puts it in accessory mode. That is going to supply power to here. And this is important because, well, the big thing you need to think about, it says here in the harness, red and white, that this needs to have power when the engine is cranking as well. So, because this is what is actually going to be running, like, this is what's going to be running your, I think, your coils and injectors in the harness. So if that is not on when you're cranking, obviously the engine's not going to start. So make sure that make sure that whatever wire you have going to this has power while you're cranking. So, and that is what this pink wire is. So that is what this pink wire is for. Next we have the black wire. And if you come here, black, connect to chassis ground. Pretty straightforward. Just make sure it's a clean ground. You could probably run it straight to the battery if you wanted. Next you have the red wire, which these are up here. You have three wires here. You have red, green, and blue with white stripe. The red wire is going to be, goes to the battery. So that I'm going to be running straight back here to the battery. And then we have this green wire, which this is your fuel pump. If you have a low amp, if you do have a low amp fuel pump, you can run this directly to your pump. I'm going to be running this to the relay. So this is going to be coming underneath with the other wires and going to the relay, so that when it has power, it activates the relay, and then I'll have a larger wire going from there underneath back to the pump. Then we have this blue wire. This is your tach output. So this will actually be meeting up with the tach wire coming from the painless, because I know that that will run up to my instrument cluster. So the Terminator ECU will be supplying the signal through the painless into my tachometer up here. So the blue wire will actually be going to this purple wire. I can actually probably cut that and I'll tie it in up here, since the blue wire is up here as well. So yeah, these three wires, fuel pump, 12-volt battery, and your tachometer. So I'm going to get those all ran, and then we will move on to the next thing. All right, might not look very good right now because I am not doing like the final wiring. This is just mock-up, and since the harness might not be exactly where it needs to be, I'm making them extra long so that I can, when I go for final wiring, I can cut to length and it'll make it look real good. But for now, it doesn't look that good. But here we have my switch 12 going to switch 12 wire. This is the wire that's for my fuel pump coming from the relay. It's going down the rail and we'll be going to here. There's a 10 gauge. Since fuel pumps use a lot of current and amperage, bigger the better. Then we have, this is going to be the 12 volt trigger for the other relay. I don't know which what it's going to power yet. And then this is the fuel pump trigger. So I just need to run grounds and this all should be good. This ground still needs to go to somewhere, but I'm not worrying about grounds right now, just power. So I think everything is pretty much done from here. Let's move forward. Now we're going to worry about the fans. So these are the output wires from the Terminator. This is what is going to be used to control my radiator fans. And I already ran the wires that are going to be going to it. I ran them through the firewall and everything along with everything else. So all the fan wires should be already good to go. So here in the book we have fan 1 and fan 2. The outputs are gray with yellow stripe and gray with red stripe. So we look here. So these two are going to be our grounds for the relay. This isn't going directly to the power of the fans. This is just the ground to the relay. So if we come over here, this yellow and white wires are the ones that I am using for the ground. So they will be connected to those wires from the Terminator and they will go to the ground wire right here of this relay. So I'm going to have two relays, one for each fan. And then I'm going to be using the power wires from the painless harness. I know this is getting confusing. This is the actual radiator fan power wire coming from the fuse block. So I'll use this to go to the switch in the relay. So it's going to have constant 12 here and it's going to be controlled by the ground wire coming from the Terminator, if that makes sense. All right, relay for the fan is all wired up. Walk through this real fast. Here we have our ground, which is coming from the Terminator. That's what turns on and off the fan. Our power for the switch, which is coming from the fuse block. Then we have the power wire, the main power wire, which is coming from the battery. And then once this is grounded, it'll throw the switch and transfer power through the relay to the actual fan, which is right here. So now I just need to add a ground for there and that should be good to go. Now we can move on to the light. Since I have an actual headlight here, still waiting on a ring to mount the other one. This is pretty straightforward. We have high beam, low beam, and I believe turn signal goes right here. So we'll get those all in. All right, lights wired, pretty straightforward, especially this is the pigtail that comes with the harness. So you just match the colors, still need to add a ground like the rest of them. Then turn signal went to here. So that is good for at least testing. And I also wired up the alternator real fast. Pretty simple there. Match colors. So I think we're at a point where we could potentially start testing some things if we had battery hookup and all that. So I think I'm gonna get a battery. We can connect power to the battery and then start figuring out grounds, because I need to run a bunch of grounds from the battery to the frame to the cab, engine, everything needs a ground. Grounding is so important and people sometimes overlook it. So it's better to have too many grounds than not enough grounds. So I think that'll be the next step, but I do need to get a battery. This is just a dummy battery that is dead. So new battery, then we can start actually testing things, which is kind of exciting. So yeah, next time you see me, we'll be testing things. So it's actually been a few weeks since I recorded last. Mainly, I've done a little bit of work off camera, but mainly just been waiting for parts so that I can make some more progress on the wiring with this. First thing first, probably since it's the easiest, most straightforward, I got a new throttle body. This ECU is for a drive-by cable, and this is a drive-by wire throttle body. So I'm going to be swapping that out, have the adapter and the throttle body. So like I said, probably the easiest thing. So I'm going to do that real fast, and then we can move on to the next thing. So first thing first, after removing the throttle body, you need to remove the studs. So I'll just lock two nuts together, tighten them against each other, and then that will allow you to turn the stud out, and then they supply you with the bolts needed to bolt the adapter on. Just like that. Now what's nice is we actually have somewhere to plug in our idle air control and throttle position. Alright, the throttle body is on, things are plugged in. Pretty straightforward. And then I even mounted the starter. Didn't need to show you that. Figured if you don't know how to do that, then probably shouldn't be building a truck. So one of the ways I'm going to be running my power to kind of everything is through these old fuel lines here. And what I found for that is I'm going to be mounting one of these. This will go through the floor pan, and then you tighten it up, and then I can connect a power from the battery that goes to the bottom here, and then this wire here, and whatever else I want can run directly off this. And this will be a good way that I can get power through the floor in a sealed way, and I think it'll go pretty smooth. So probably looks like I need to drill these out a little bigger, and then we can cut, put connectors on, and it should clean it up a lot. That actually turned out really good, cleans things up. And then I'll show you underneath. So you have a stud that goes clear through. And yeah, I think that turned out really good. Pretty happy with that. So, all right, got this wire cut the length, hooked up, looking good. And then underneath, same thing, got it hooked up. And then I'm not going to cut this wire to length yet because I don't have the actual battery I'm going to be using. This is kind of a dummy battery, so I'll just hook this to the positive terminal when I test things. So I think that is it. The last thing I'm going to be hooking up before I go to test things is this stereo. This is just a single DIN touch screen. I want something a little modern but not super crazy, so that will go in there, and I think it'll look good. Not too big, but I think it'll look nice. So I need to figure out a way to cut that. It looks like I can just cut this. Then power wise, it already has everything that I need. Constant power, switched power, and then I think power antenna, so I just need to add a ground, and should be able to at least get it hooked up so that I can see if it comes on with the key and everything. All right, got everything kind of hooked up. These small wires are direct power to the ECU, the Holly, and then obviously the bigger wires are chassis grounds, grounded to the frame. I have a few jump wires. Oh, well, that's on. Guess that's a good thing. Obviously this should come on with the key. Ran a ground there to the chassis. The lights should hopefully work. So the way this key system works is, which really, I don't know why. Well, kind of stumped. I was receiving constant power through my switched circuit as well as my constant circuit. So that is why the radio was staying on. So I kind of cut some wires, trying to figure out why that is happening. So I'm just kind of breaking down and then building it back up. So I guess that's why we do these tests, to figure out, make sure everything's working. So, but I'm out of time today. Have to work on it another day, so that's where we're at. All right, I think I have this figured out. I don't know why, but whenever I plug in my alternator, it will send power to my switched circuit, which should be activated with the key. So I don't know why, and that's why the stereo came on as soon as I hooked up the battery. But I think, I don't know why the alternator is doing that. I have to look into that, but I think I have it pretty much figured out. So everything's hooked up, ECU, chassis, ground, power. So everything is off like it should be. And I've also been kind of learning how this push button system works. So another thing that I installed is this new cigarette lighter location USB charger, and this has a constant 12 volts to it. And the nice thing about this one is you can turn it on and off. So as you can see, it's on and has a old style USB and then a USB-C, the newer styles that everything's going to. So that is on, and that looks really good there. Pretty happy with how that came out. So first of all, with this system, we need the sensor on the ring. Once that is good, press this once. Hopefully. There we go. Press this once. Maybe. There we go. So that is accessory mode. So with accessory mode, the stereo comes on, but as you can see, nothing, no power here, no power to the ECU yet. Still have headlights and all that. And then press it again, and that goes into ignition. So just heard this should be kicking on. Boom, we have power there, and then we should have power to wiper, which you can hear it. So everything's working the way it should. That should still have power. Lights still have power. So I don't know why the alternator threw me through a loop right there. I'll have to figure all that out, do some research, but everything is working the way it should, which is a relief, because I was like, oh geez, where did I go wrong? I actually disconnected pretty much everything from the ignition power module for the push button. So I was like, man, is that not working? But as you can see, I can press it again. That turns off, off, and off. So Everything's working the way it should. Pretty happy with that. And we just continue to make progress. But I think I'm gonna end this one here. I don't like getting too much information into one video. I will continue on. I'd like to get these rear chassis wires all ran, figure out how I want to run that under the truck, and then I do want to put the bed on and all that. So that will probably be in the next video. So look out for that one. Thank you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.